So I'm here with Unknown Misery and Vandal, and we did a collaboration, this NFT that is a visual that spans some sort of a time spectrum of about 6,000 years in the visual representation, as well as this amazing track that you guys put together with Gumja Beats. And it just reminded me of so many good things, like even sound wise, something that might be a little obscure for you guys, but the cinematic orchestra, that was a big part of my life when I was in university. And some of those smooth, beautiful sounds kept coming through, and then of course my love for the pyramids and the mystics and everything. And I just, off the bat, what I want to say is like how rare the both of you guys or your combos are, because in terms of the hip hop culture, I mean, the default setting is pretty much someone with a gold chain, and then someone rubbing their butts up against the screen in a certain kind of way. So your values and your message is something entirely polar opposite of the sort of factory settings, if you will. And then the second thing is that when I've heard blockchain inspired music before, the cringe has been strong, my friends. And to actually combine those, all of the mystics sort of things, and what you guys represent, and the smoothness of sound that actually makes me feel good, was just something that made me profoundly happy when I heard what you guys were doing. So it was a real pleasure to start working with you guys. And on that note, please just let people know what you're about to release next, and where people can find you right off the bat, and then we can start whatever free fall conversation we want to go into.
All right, yo, Vandal, I'd say you're taking the lead in most of this, man. I say break it down. You know.
All right, so I guess I'm Vandal, aka the Slow-Mo Sapien, aka the Dr. Tangent, aka the Nomadic Addict, and yeah, I don't know, like it's when asked to explain myself or what I do, it's rather difficult at times. But I guess I'm a creative head, born in the age of the golden era hip hop, and a participant of global cultures and traveling and mixing music with the travels, and now kind of the blend of technology, but still keeping it grounded, still keeping those roots connected to the earth and the vibrations. And I guess the new stuff that Miz and myself, as well as DJ Lethal Skills, are working on is a project called Origin City, which is a 5-track EP that we've actually got a Gitcoin grant up for round 6 now. So we're doing some fundraising for that. And it's basically about Origin City, which is the central point of cryptovoxels, and the place where the pyramid is, and the place where there's so many different areas, and we want to explore the weirdness that is cryptovoxels. We want to explore the builds, we want to explore the people, the places, and that's sort of the idea of the project. And the beats are all done by DJ Lethal Skills. And I don't know if Miz, you want to add something in, let people know about yourself?
Yeah, sure. All right, so yeah, well, I goes on No Misery. Same thing, like Vandal's saying. It's hard to like say what I am, what I do, I guess. But I guess as most artists in this day and age, you got to wear several hats. So most artists end up doing several things. So I'm one of those artists. Community is very important to me in the work I do, I should say. And even when I create music, community is always somewhere in my mind while I'm writing the music, even if it's usually when I write music, it comes from a place of pain or sadness and it's therapy, or I'm just like, yo, I wish I could give a message out to people. I'm not a politician, but maybe I could give a message out to some people. So I try to do that. But since I stepped into this space, the first song we did with you for the pyramids, when Vandal brought me onto it, I was like, all right, let me do this, but how do I not be corny? Because even me right away, I'm like, yo, it's pretty easy to be corny right now. What am I going to write? Like, but then it was just like, I don't know, the beat, Gamja Beach just put some eeriness to the beat. And then I went to the pyramids and I looked at it while I was writing, and it was really cool to blend both worlds. And even so, that brings us to the new project of doing Origin City. It's still haven't started writing it, but I have ideas in my head, and it's going to be really fun just using metaphors from the metaverse that can still transcend into the fiat world. You know what I mean? So, and there's a way to do it, and that's why it's going to be a really fun project. And we're hoping to get community, more community feedback and interaction, you know? So like, that's what I really find cool about the space, the fact that community is so important. And Vandal's, like, at first it was hard for me to understand. Vandal's like, well, when we do this, we're going to ask the community for their feedback and what they want to hear. And I didn't understand it really. So it took me a little while to start understanding a bit more. But yeah, so that's what I do. And that's what we're kind of focused on while we're doing several other things with the Origin City album music-wise.
Have you already started, or are you thinking about starting your own social currency, like something like #DAO, or, you know, I think that would be a really interesting reversal of things, is that all of a sudden, like even at the beginning, like people show up to an event that you're putting up or something like that. They're not paying you, you're paying them, or you're dropping something as a reward for people for showing up and giving their energy. This was the experiment that we now did together with the Pyramid Lodge and things like that. I just think it would be perfect for what you guys are building here.
You know, actually we have our own DAO, the DAO Records currency, which is the Tune token. So we're just starting to begin activating that. At the last whip, the Cent guys and Matthew and Rizzle, at the last whip, we gave away some Tune tokens. So I think, you know, it makes, to me, it makes it like I've explored the realm of the social tokens, and I've talked to Bradley and the whole Roll team, and those guys are awesome. And I was just really trying to find a way that it could work, you know, for what we're doing. And I didn't want it to kind of be about like me per se. So then when we launched the DAO, I was like, I had to make sure that, you know, we have our own token for the DAO, and that, you know, we could kind of focus on utilizing the DAO token to bring people in, as well as to add value with the stuff we're doing. Like you're saying, you know, come to the event, get some Tune token, you know, do this, do little contests and whatever, and people can, you know, earn Tune token, and eventually we're not limited by, let's say, that the confines of what Roll has set out with the limited amount of, or the certain, like, what was it, 100,000 tokens or 10 million tokens or something, and then it's a set amount. Whereas we have a bit more flexibility with the DAO token, and eventually we do want to get it listed on some of the decentralized exchanges, and we are, you know, gonna have some value to it eventually, you know.
Cool.
So that's the plan around that.
So how did you, like, maybe Miz, if you can tell, you obviously, I mean, it took you, the both of you, it was so fast that you came up with the track. And I suppose since you didn't so much bother about the name, I guess its name is Kali Yuga now, as is the art piece that is the combo of it. But it seemed to come from so naturally from you. So how did you, Miz, how did you drop into the mystic space and the King Diamond Tut?
King Diamond Tut, yeah.
Tut,
so
yeah.
King Diamond Tut's one of my AKAs. And I don't even know. Like, eventually, my real name's Surab. Eventually, I'd like to just market myself as Surab. But marketing, I got a branding, got to start all over, even though that's my birth name. So, but King Diamond Tut was a way to get away from misery. You know what I mean? It was to find the gems that are shining inside you. The misery is like, when I first met my fiance, she told me this one story about the Buddha and mud, like a bunch of mud getting, I'm going to ruin the story, but a bunch of mud getting slapped on the Buddha over time, it was a pure golden Buddha. And it just looked like a piece of mud, until you chipped away and then you could see the gold. So it was like King Diamond Tut was bringing the gold out of me that was covered by the mud, the systemic mud thrown on me, which I call unknown misery. You know what I mean? So that's like where and my music comes from a spiritual place, I would say. Like, I don't really, sometimes I think about a song deeply. And when I do, I'm really happy with them, to be honest. I wish I did that more often. But usually I just write from here. It's like if I get a beat, I'm like, all right, I like the beat. Let me turn it off, not listen to it. Now when it's time to write, when I'm feeling the energy to write, let me go smoke a joint. You know what I mean? Have the beat ready, have my space ready, come back in and just start writing. Just play the beat and start writing naturally. And like most of my songs in life, like most of my albums have been created in like 2-3 days. You know, I don't like taking too much time on the art, especially when it has certain themes, because I feel like I'm an emotional person. So my themes and in my personal life, what I want to write about changes, you know, so constantly. So if I'm writing about something, I like to write it in the space, in the moment, in that energy. It's a spiritual thing. Like that's a piece of my spirit that I'm putting out there. It's magic. You know what I mean? So when the words have magic, I know I'm rambling, but like for words, you got to spell words. You need letters to spell a word. And I know people said it before, that's a spell, you know, and like everything we do is magic. Like if we look at the world right now in the mass hypnosis they got us under, this is all magic, you know, and artists have been suppressed many times due to the power of their magic. We may not even know the power in the magic we have, but due to that power, many artists get suppressed. And then we end up struggling, we end up suffering, we end up bleeding inside, and we end up quitting, or we end up just bitter, or we end up on the blockchain and we meet each other and we start working together, you know? And so that's where I'm at. This is a breath of fresh air. It was really weird to put my spiritual, not to call it that, I don't want to call my music that, but like to put spiritual words into a song about pyramids built in a computer almost, you know what I mean? So it was like really strange to me because when I first joined this world, I had this eerie feeling, and then now I got used to it. Like now I love how the blocks look. I'm looking like the world don't look cool enough for the blocks now, you know?
Yeah, I hear you.
But that's my ramble. I don't know if I answered. This is how we're just gonna ramble a little bit.
Yeah, sure. But like maybe what I was referring to in my personal thing, it was something like there was a progressive rock band that is still a crime that, you know, they didn't become a global massive thing. There's a band called Kingston Wall, and they did a trilogy album, and the first one was about, it was almost like Hendrix. It's a trio band, and they're just powerhouses, all of these guys. And the first one was a little bit too basic, and then this guy met a Finnish mystic called Bok, who started telling the sagas of Finland. And because essentially in Finland we have the history of the conqueror. We were sort of in between Russia and Sweden, and we were used as a little bit of a kickball for centuries in a certain kind of way. And we, much like many things associated with the pyramids, we have a little bit of an amnesia as to what really happened from my nation's point of view, as opposed to the conqueror's point of view, which in one sense came with the cross from the East and Russia and also from Sweden. But you know that there's lots to be discovered there, and I'm very excited that there's a couple of guys who are in Finland who we're going to start collaborating with to unravel some of this stuff. And basically, the second album was more, all of a sudden it was prog rock and it was Hendrix, but there were sitars there, and the album cover was like these guys on a magic carpet sort of riding, and it started sounding like that music. And then the third one was just so epic because it was early 90s, but they started mixing electronica. I mean, this is around the same time as I heard the very first Chemical Brothers album, Exit Planet Dust, that kicked my brains to the curb. That was when I was listening to the third trilogy album, and it had the All-Seeing Eye in its cover, and I couldn't stop looking at it. I didn't know what the fuck it was, but it was this whole mystical, meandering thing, and I knew there was something in there, but I couldn't put my mind to it. But it was almost like that setting was already in the back of my brain, just waiting for me to discover it from a point of view, and then it just progressed and progressed and went from there. But that's the first conscious connection that I had to that world. And then it's documentaries and things like that. And that's what I was maybe wondering, is when you personally discovered that thing inside of you, was there a moment?
You know what I think? University. It doesn't sound spiritual or anything, but university.
Right.
I think that was the moment. I was taking equity studies, which studied equality and sociology, and I got into through a program. I got into University of Toronto through a program called TYP. That's Transitional Year Program. And what you had to do is you had to send them an essay. They didn't look at grammar, spelling, anything. They just looked at the message within the essay. As long as you could show them that you see the systemic issues of why everyone has their own issues, but the different issues of why you couldn't get to university the traditional way, and you write an essay explaining why it would be valuable for society for you to get a university degree. So I did that. I got in, and I was just trying to, like, I don't know, man. When I got into university, my daughter was just being born, so I needed to do something. So I got into this program. I got into university, but I was still halfway in the streets, like thinking I'm cool, but I wasn't, like, honestly, I never was like that dude. I always thought that I was like, people that even know the old me, they're like, yo, Miz was like, yo, he thought he was this gangster. I was not ever a gangster. Like, I could see myself now from far, and it's like, as an adult, I would have like spotted me out in the crowd and been like, yo, come here, buddy. You know what I mean? This is not you. You're not built for this. Yeah. But so university, actually, equity studies, it showed me that the things I was feeling in the world made sense. It wasn't just me feeling it. There was someone else telling me that, oh, you're feeling this way, probably because of this and this reason, and it was a professor telling us that at lectures. So I met a bunch of cool people there. We started, this is what universities do around the world, a lot of critical thinkers. So we started getting involved in a lot of shows, because I made music by that time, and I couldn't help it but to write about what I was learning. So instead of writing about semi-street politics, I was writing about straight freedom and history. Now, it just happened because of my classes. And then when I'm writing about freedom and history, I met a brother actually named Logix, and then we ended up, his girlfriend at the time made us a t-shirt that said "Stolen from Africa." We both wore the t-shirts. We went on stage one day, we performed at a university thing, and people like really gravitated towards it. And they wanted us involved in these protests and in these healing classes. And when they wanted us involved, like, I think they thought that I understood more than I even did. So I knew nothing. I still know nothing. But back then, I didn't know what was going on. And I was in the good part of my roller coaster of life. That was a great part of the roller coaster. I loved it. And after that, it was like, so after that, it just naturally ended up sparking a light in me, man. Like, you know what I mean? When you're told that you are a king, and I'm not talking a king with a castle and a crown filled with stolen jewels. I'm talking spiritually. When you're a king, a queen, you're a god or a goddess, you know what I mean? Or whatever, you know what I mean? See, even these words nowadays, they're so like polarizing. But when you find that in you, when you find that knowledge of self, you find the king in you, and you can become king. You can become a diamond. You know what I mean? So that's my long answer for it. It's knowledge of self. And I could have gotten knowledge of self from the streets, which I somewhat did. But the people on the streets giving knowledge of self were still caught up. They're giving you knowledge of self. And then right after the great conversation, they're giving you a bag to go sell. So it doesn't really make sense, So what I learned in university was great. And I left university because I hated the surroundings of it, just like the industry.
I'm yet to discover an institution where I've felt at home. What about you, Vandal? What's your mystical journey thing now, doing hip hop in Kuala Lumpur? Dude, you're on a pretty epic kick as well.
Okay, so that's, I wouldn't consider it like a mystical journey here in KL personally. At least not now. I think at the beginning it was one of those things like, okay, so let's backtrack. 1992, I was back in Toronto, and I was inspired by my mother, um, and discovered this analog sampler called the Roland W30, and I'd fallen in love with it, and I was able to like sample these hip hop tracks, and I was like, whoa, I can make beats. And then I started making beats with this tool, right? And then I bumped into these two other artists who lived out in the suburbs, Phil and Kwame, and we eventually, formed a crew together. But that winter, or that winter of '92, I took my first solo trip abroad, and I went to Europe, and I spent 2 months. I think it was 2 months wandering around Europe, like on a shoestring budget, and just kind of doing the travel thing and learning about myself, and all like solo, right? And at that time, like I left my sampler with Phil, and then Phil started making beats. So when I came back, he was already learning how to make beats, and then we kind of just like started doing it together. And so the common theme that I'm getting at is that there was this mixture of traveling and music, and it all started around the same time in '92. '93, I went like, I had a life-changing experience similar to like Miz's experience at university, and I think that this really kind of like, this is where I found my personal direction, like myself as an artist. um, I got accepted on an exchange program called Canada World Youth, and it's a cultural exchange program. And I was on the waiting list, and they called me up one day. I got a call. They're like, "Yo, you want to go to Indonesia?" And I was like, "Huh? What? Like, where's Indonesia?" At the time, I was like, "Huh?" I knew Thailand, the typical spots, like, and that was like on the list. So I was like, "Yeah, all right, I'm down." Like I said yes right away. They didn't even have to tell me. I could have been going anywhere. I would have just said yes. And that pretty much changed my life. That whole experience. I ended up living in a small village with no running water, no electricity for like 3.5 months, learning the culture and absorbing the music, the the sounds, the film, the clothing, the style, like all of it. And that really kind of changed me when I came back to Toronto. It was like I wouldn't, fork and knife. Nah, man, give me a spoon. You know, it's like what. And then I started wearing a sarong, and just certain things that really kind of like resonated with me, and I started incorporating that in the music. And then after that, it was just like I had to get back out there. So there was this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and a few other journeys along the way. I was in Mauritius and Madagascar as well, and that was like pretty like at that transition point in '98, '99, and through that I ended up connecting with people in Malaysia on my way back to Canada. That really kind of set my journey in figurative stone here, in that like it opened up doors and opportunities. And I just love to write about my experiences. I didn't like, when you start out, you kind of emulate what you're hearing, a lot of the stuff that's around you. And once I went on my travels, I started writing about my travels, and I come back and, again, like Miz is saying about the industry and stuff, right? I was like, the industry is like, yeah, they don't understand my travel raps. It's not happening. So I guess that's kind of like, like my origin story in a way.
It's sort of because uh, it's a sort of an in-betweener experience in a certain kind of sense, because even all the institutions, that's a given. I mean, all of them have given something, but in some sense they've also felt like they took a lot away, especially after the internet exploded, I started discovering people like Ken Wilber and integral theory, and just expanded out of the contractions of modern day society into all of a sudden this very, very inspiring field of the best thinkers in the world and content like that. And then taking the leap and becoming from a filmmaker, becoming a mixed media artist and making that like full on, like just there's no other thing, I'm doing this, period. And then like trying to find a spot in the legacy art world has probably been one of the most horrific experiences of my life, trying to like somehow I've always felt like a round thing trying to go into a square fucking something that, and it's not working out. And no matter what I do, it's almost like I'm sinking into quicksand. And then 3 years ago, the blockchain experience happens. And despite these places that were meant to be on my side, that were more my biggest obstacle, I was able to do things that when I came to the blockchain space and showed people what I'd done, they went like, fuck, this is really great. Come and do this. Come and here's another opportunity. Here's a door. All of a sudden the energy opens up. I mean, I was a money activist for a while because I made a Finnish version of the Zeitgeist film series. I'm not sure if you guys have seen Peter Joseph's, that sort of thing. So we did, with my production company, we put a whole year to interview the Finnish experts and put a sort of like the addendum version in Finnish out here. And of course that was a certain kind of kick, and it messed my head a little bit because with the sort of contempt for the system, I also started hating money a little bit. And being an artist, just how difficult it is to make money to begin with and make it into a commercial enterprise. When you mix it with a bad attitude towards the earning of it as well, then you're really in a bind. And that's where I was for a long kind of way. At the same time, being super entrepreneurial, wanting to make the world a better place, making big projects, putting them together, like inverting the Maslow hierarchy pyramid basically for such a long time that I lost my health. And then the blockchain happens and it's such an amazing thing. But here comes the dilemma, which is in a sense our collaboration. I mean, if you look at the record label history, or you look at the way that I grew up in the 80s and 90s with music, now it's almost turned like the YouTube star killed the music sort of star in a certain kind of way. And the guys who are making the millions, like the kind of quality and the amount of music that the both of you have put out, you know, by our growing up standards, the both of you would be like very, very well-to-do, like rock stars, essentially doing your thing.
Thanks,
so we sort of fell into, when the record label industry, instead of embracing technology, they fought it. So that's an in-between thing. And now with our collaboration, you essentially made one track of music that is exceptional, that is now able for someone to own that piece of music. Just that one fucking track.
Love it.
And basically, instead of just with like $20 you own an album, or $10 you own a single like before, and then like millions and millions of people bought them. Now this opportunity is, it's essentially like making someone a Saudi king who can summon Michael Jackson into his private party. But not only that, there's a fucking art piece attached to it that, in terms of substance, like if you go to the legacy art world shows and you have these few lines and splashes of paint, and the majority of it is such nonsense that I can't even throw up that bad, you know, what that whole thing is. So there's such an amount of substance in this one collaboration that is available for someone to buy. But the reality is, and it pains me a little bit to say it, but because I think it's more embarrassing for the space that they haven't made any offers on that, I'm comfortable to say it.
Sorry, if I could add, it's because unfortunately people need leaders, and unfortunately leaders need leaders. And the way psychology works is, if the right people who had the cosign power in every world, in this world, the right people with the cosign power can make everyone on the blockchain buy a box of fresh steaming shit. Like if someone marketed my shit in the box and the right people co-signed it, if the right whales co-signed, if the right whales co-signed, all the whales out there, if you want to market my shit, I'll shit in a box and you guys can sell it like the Mona Lisa. That's how it works. It's the people that have the influence. If I could like go back for a second, I liked everything you're saying. It just made me think. It's like the money thing. This all goes back to the beginning of what you're saying, the money thing, the guilt. It's like they tricked us, man. They tricked us 100%. They made artists feel guilty for accepting money or putting value on their work. They made people who want freedom and equality hate money so much that they will put themselves in poverty just to fight poverty. Because if they get out of poverty, they're not good enough at fighting poverty according to the eyes of people fighting poverty, because we are brainwashed. They wanted us to stay poor. And you know how we know this? Financially poor, that is. Because that's when you see a time like this in the world, what happens? Where are all the people that got the cosigns? Where are they? They are nowhere. But what's going to happen when this all, what might happen later on? Everyone just might forget when someone has a new song. You know what I mean? Like, for example, like Chris Brown beats women. He just won a BET award. Like, this is disgusting. You know what I mean? The industry is disgusting. The whales in the fiat world are disgusting. You know what I mean? And the people in power are disgusting. And in a way, it's like we are disgusting. In the way that even myself, where I can talk all this, but if someone constantly advertises something in my face and you send me 2 tweets about something, I'm going to go check out what this guy advertises in my face. I won't have a choice. You know what I mean? Even though I should be checking out your 2 tweets first. So it's like, I think one, that's what I like about this space. You can value your work, and that's beautiful. 2, don't worry about it, brother. Just wait. Your art's amazing. Just wait. The longer it waits, it's on the blockchain, right? So the way I'm looking at it is, Vandal brought this up before. The longer we wait, the more valuable it gets, because you're going to create more art, and you're going to create more art. We're creators, so we keep creating. You know what I mean? And then there's those few people that need creators to make their millions. You know, it's like asking someone to perform for some beers, but they're going to get all the money from the venue at the door. You know what I mean? It's like, these are the people, man. They're sick, evil, greedy people out there that made us feel guilty for making money. And guess what? I'm out here saying that, I want people like us to make billions of dollars, because I'm not going to buy billions of Lamborghinis. We're going to build billions of community centers. We're going to give people electricity if we have billions of dollars. People have internet access if we have billions of dollars. So the person who buys your art piece, VESA, is a person who is going to help someone's light turn on in the future. You know what I mean? Sure. That's how they're going to start, by buying your art. You know, by supporting my music, by supporting Vandal's art, by supporting someone else's art who I don't even know yet. And I don't know them because they're putting a few tweets in that little circle just like me, you know? So that's the one thing about, I'm just getting passionate, but that's the one thing I like about this community, is that we have the ability. I'm very new here, so I know I'm just talking just with passion. I don't have a full understanding. But at the same time, what I see with my tourist eyes almost, because I have new tourist eyes, I'm seeing like a place where community can work, you know, where this unity can work. You know, as I'm seeing working through DAO records, man, real talk, like that's where I'm seeing how community can work. So I think feeling guilty about making money is their trick that should be gone. And don't feel disappointed about the space, man. It's about the people in the space. Whoever hears this, we need more people to create more outlets like you're doing right now. You know, create more outlets and put on different hats and play different roles and promote different artists other than yourself. You know, you see someone's song that's really good, just because it's really good, don't like it secretly. Share it. Don't be afraid to share it. There's not only one throne up there. Don't be afraid to share it. That's a trick the colonizer played on us as well. You like someone's song, you like someone's art, you may get nothing out of it, you think. But share it, because if they win, you actually win, because we're all in the same community, man. Preach on, brother. That's it.
Okay,
I had this idea that popped into my head as well, was like when you were talking about doing the shows and stuff, and Michael Jackson in Saudi Arabia and this kind of thing, is like, hey, like, ooh, we could come to Finland, man, and do like a live performance of this song like only once all together with the artwork right there. And we do that, and we charge people to come in the door, and then create the hype, and it's just like a one-time deal. Like that's all you're gonna get. So you get that.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Well, there's things happening that I'm gonna let you know after we stop recording. So, yeah, right there with you. So,
Nice.
Coming up. But yeah,
Nice.
like not to do a misunderstanding. It was like basically the physical pieces and the conference opportunities, writing, doing all of this stuff. That's not what I'm frustrated about. Not even the community. There's so many things that are great. This grievance that I actually just sort of ousted with some force is basically to do with the fact that when I started creating my art, it's mixed media art, but they were high quality, high resolution digital media files. So my originals are actually digital files, and they have been so for 12 years. So I've been waiting for the blockchain solutions to come about so that I can not only sell the originals and monetize them, as well as do this one pricing innovation that has been worked with, that was also already launched like 12 years ago. All of it has been waiting for the NFT space and the crypto space to come along. So now that it's starting to thrive, now that it's starting to go somewhere, I'm already quite a few years in waiting for it to happen. So my frustration with the NFT space comes that it just got born, but I've been waiting for it for so long that I would like it to run with 47 feet or something like that in order to get to where to claim some of the value that I put in while starving. So that's where that's coming from.
No. I didn't think you were like complaining like that. I was just like, when I talk like that, it's because when I like hear something, I'm like, I have a point to add. It's like I can't help it, man. Like sometimes if people don't know me, this is probably a good moment to explain it. All the people that get to meet me now, like virtually, if I'm extra hyper, it's just I'm being passionate, man. Don't worry about it. That's where I come from, man. I come from a culture where we scream across the dinner table. We scream at each other when we're talking about butter. You know what I mean? So like, don't worry about it. This is how it is. Yeah, man.
What's the most inspiring thing for you, Vandal, about the whole thing now?
Yeah, the fact that it's at the beginning, like what you're saying about having to wait for these things to happen. That like that's like basically, getting the machete out and chopping the path. Like, and I think that that's what's exciting for me is because, like we can imagine it and it's not there, and we can actually like make those imaginations and those dreams and whatever thoughts that we have into reality. Like the idea of doing an audio NFT, like discovering the NFT space with CryptoKitties, and was like, oh shit, this is a real game changer. Like I thought that was like the most genius moment after I had my laugh. The first time I heard of the CryptoKitty, I was just like, what the hell is this? And I had a big laugh about it. But then I started to understand what it really was. And I was like, holy shit, this is genius. This is so genius. And then it kind of like fell off the radar for a while until I bumped back into the crypto art scene, like around January. And then I was like, oh wow, it's here. It's doing this now. Holy shit. Okay. So let's try and get some audio NFTs. And then, just talking to different people, sharing the idea. And then Mintbase and Nate from Mintbase was like, oh, I think we can do it. I was like, what? Really? Huh? Yeah. Oh, okay. And now I'm like waiting. And he's like, yeah, I'm working on it. I'm like, holy shit. Like everything's exploding in my brain. And he's telling me like the whole process of what's happening. And he was like, he didn't sleep for like 2 days because I got him so hyped up on like figuring this out. And he was so excited that it basically transformed Mintbase, because now they're using Arweave and like Graph Protocol and like expanding what they're doing. And it's just like, and this is just the beginning, you know.
Because that's
We're
sorry.
Yeah, we're going to see. We have the opportunity to lead it in the direction, and I think that, you know, like, we're good people to do that, and that's kind of like, it's our moment, you know.
Oh, for
Even
sure.
though
You're
we want it
perfect.
to come sooner, but
But because what I just had as a thought is that, you know, if you go to the visual realm, if something is a limited edition of 25, it's already starting to push it a little bit. Like something for a physical print, something like what you see behind me is like the tradition is something like, if you have a little bit more of an expensive experience, it's a limited edition of 6 or something like that visually. But people, and now you start to see that the collectors, they really do like the unique art pieces, which in one way is kind of insane, because having an original in a planet that is now with 7 billion people or something like that in these emerging economies is quite a statement, especially from a popular artist. I mean, to demand that, it should cost a hell of a lot of money. And
yeah,
with music, let's say, because we grew up with seeing people selling 1 million records is considered maybe a flop, or 3 million. I remember when David Bowie sold one of his new albums and it only sold 3 million, and people were calling it a flop, and I was going like, what the fuck? And but then there were the super sellers, you know, you go something crazy, and that's what we associate with music. So if there's a music track that is limited to 500, it still feels to me like that's a real gem of a
well,
collector's
Wu-Tang
item.
did it.
Yeah.
Wu-Tang did this. They put out the album, and there was only one, and Martin Scorsese bought it
Yeah.
for like 2
Idiot.
point something million dollars.
Yeah.
And because there's only one Wu-Tang album, you know.
Yeah.
And
That's
that was that's
insane.
something along that lines, right? Like, shit,
Mm-hmm.
you can make more money selling one album than you can selling 1 million albums.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's
In a
easier to
way.
find. It's almost easier to, because it's like you can find one. Like, I think every artist has one person at least that will follow them like a cult. Like, they have one a person that's like, be it a friend or someone, you know. It's like me. I can think of the few, like, I consider them friends, you know, that are like, they'll buy anything I release. So it's like, it's, you know what I mean. So it's like, those are the people that are like, that it's for, almost like those few core fans can help, like, things like this can help, like, the artists who aren't pushing millions of sales per release. Exactly. Like, it help artists like me, where it's like, yo, all right, I have like a limited one, and I have this many loyal fans that will buy something, I would hope, and, you know, one of them will come and purchase that or something. That's the goal. But I know, I do feel like it definitely adds more value, and it gives a different type of value to musicians, because I think there's so much music being created. I don't know what it is. It's just the music scene's been so saturated that I've been to studios. Like, I'll go to, for example, last experience that I was in Belgrade, I'm recording music. They're paying me for music. By the end of the session, not paying me. They weren't paying me because we were building on something else. So I didn't get paid. We had a barter. By the end of it all, everything switched. And like, this person started talking to me about like, bro, you did that too quickly. I'm like, yeah, do you like it? He's like, yeah, I like it, man, but you did it too quickly. It's not worth the money right now, man. You did it too quickly. And it's like, so people will be like, yo, you make music easily, or it's easy to write a rap song, so it doesn't have value. You're not a real musician. You're not a real artist, you know? And
Yeah,
it's like,
man.
it's nice that can change, and we can make our poetry real art.
Mm.
You know?
Dude, that's Picasso sold that already. I mean, he did this one sketch in like 40 seconds or something like that, and then he put a pretty obscene price on it, and then someone just said, well, how can you, that's not fair. And he said, well, you're not paying for the 40 seconds, you're paying for the 40 years of
There you
work that
go.
I put in. And then he didn't say it, but he should have also said, well, I just also happen to be a fucking genius. So, and those are rare if you haven't, you know, figured that out yet. So it's like those kind of like little injections into, because you can't value art with the same logistics and value system as you do, and like someone's regular job and their safety and things like that. We truly are soldiers of fate faith, even in that sort of a sense that it's a leap of faith to begin, and it's a grueling, horrible experience to remain an artist. I mean, I've been a professional creative for 20 years, and most of it has been about, you know, really doing the creative grunt work of having a production company or doing commercial photography, figuring out a way, and just day-to-day grind and desperation and depressions and the fucking self nihilist doubts of whether I made the biggest mistake of my life and I should have done something else, or whether I screwed everything. Dude, like, those people who value the world by the I will be paid by the hour or by the week, they will never get it. And that is one problem, I suppose. What we'll always have with art is that like, if it's an elite affair in a certain kind of sense, because only the lunatics do it. And then sometimes it's only the elites who have the time to become the real appreciators, or those who can fund some of this stuff. And I suppose the blockchain it can and is democratic, much more democratic in a sense, but it doesn't change the value system of the people who are in it. And they need to get what it is that we're doing in order to actually appreciate it. And that's the sort of bear wrestle going on, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah, man.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, that whole time comparison and valuing it, and like, oh no, that's not worth anything. You did it so quickly. It was like, yeah, okay. I mean, because I can. You know,
Right?
sometimes
Seriously.
other people, it's just like, you know, you work with different people have their own timing of how they do stuff. Some people are like very like, they'll like write and then they'll go over it and they'll edit it again, and then they have to, you know, they have a certain process. Every artist has their process, and I think, you know, Miz and myself, we share a similar process in that like, we don't really think too much about it. You just like unleash, you know. It's just like, boom, you start, and then it flows, and you just keep kind of going from it. There's no real thought. It just kind of happens. And
Have you guys messed with
puts
psychedelics?
itself together.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
I can actually break something down quickly. So when I originally thought I was gonna kill the energy of Unknown Misery, I had a moment where Unknown Misery died. And that's when King Diamond Tut was born. And then when I was in Europe last year, I was like, forget this. Unknown Misery is the brand. I'm just gonna run with it. I can make any style of music. But when I killed Unknown Misery, it was on an album produced by the Archaeologist. The album's called Life, Sins, and Death, LSD. And so it was a weekend. I live in Vancouver now. I used to live in Toronto. He lives in Toronto. So we decided that I'm gonna kill myself on this album, metaphorically. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, let's do it this way. I'm like, I'm gonna pop some LSD. I'm gonna lock myself in the room, but I'm gonna wait, obviously. I'm not gonna wait for you to send me beats on LSD. I'm gonna lock myself in the room after you send me beats, but I'm not gonna listen to one of them. So he made beats in 3 days, and all on magic mushrooms, and he sent them to me. And I popped LSD, I locked myself in the room, and I just wrote these songs like, I don't know, in like 2 days. You know, I take breaks, obviously, for some kind of mind. Like, I had to go for walks. I'm on LSD, man. I can feel it right now when I talk about it. But it was like actually a great experience. And writing that album, it was a spiritual thing. It was like, I took LSD and he took shrooms. We created something together from different places in a short time. And it was done by Archaeologists, which is one of the first producers not for the first producer I worked with, but one of the first producers I would say I considered a part of my family, you know? So it was, I love writing with LSD. I haven't done it in a minute because I don't know. Last time I tried, I almost had a panic attack. So stuff.
What about you, Vandal?
Yeah, I'm more of a mushrooms guy. I like the shrooms. Not so much on the creating side, but more of like that, you know, internal journey. I was reading a lot of Carlos Castaneda for a while, and you know, I had a mission to kind of get to the gate, and you know, to see the little green guys and and Humido and just kind of like have that experience. And I set up this trip like I put 7 grams of mushrooms in a teapot, and I had
That's a trip.
peppermint tea, and I had some like Balinese gamelan music lined up with the
Oh,
headphones, like to get down into the bed, and then absorb that, and then come out and yeah, and it was just like I remember eating like the rubbery bits of the mushroom after it like soaks in the tea. It's like it's super rubbery, and remember chewing on that and like giving some to Phil, and then we went up, and I think I made beat. I think I made a beat or 2 beats or something.
yeah.
Yeah, like beat making, I think on mushrooms is cool for me. Writing, it always turns into just poetry. It's not really like
Yeah.
songs or anything. For me, I like to like just go inside a bit more when it comes to the psychedelics.
Dope, man. I actually, I like microdose for a little bit, man. I was microdosing acid for, I'd say, a year, like just under a year. And it did wonders, and it actually helped me for a little bit. And then I, just for my mental health, for my, my ups and downs. And it was great. And one time the first time I microdosed wrong. I think I macrodosed. But I ended up so I got in the car, I microdosed, I forgot I microdosed. It didn't hit me yet. I forgot. I got in the car like a maniac, and I drove to, I don't want to say their name, but I drove to a Paul Fart store, a Paul Fart superstore. The store rhymes with Paul Fart. And then, so I go there, I get out the car, everything's normal. Then I go up the escalator and I start feeling it. I'm like, oh shit, I microdosed, but I did too much. I could feel it. And I felt like Simba in The Lion King. Like, I'll never forget. The escalator was slowly taking me up. And then you can see, like, there was a glass thing, and you can see all of Paul Fart's merchandise, like a sea of colonialism and capitalism. So I'm just going up like Simba, just like watching it. And like, in a weird way, it was the nicest experience I've ever had in that store. But I had to walk around there for hours because I couldn't drive. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I walked around Paul Fart for hours. That's just a funny story I wanted to add.
Well, the reason I brought it up is it actually links to the previous conversation. Is the amount of time that it gets you like all of a sudden you can birth something that would take a lifetime for other people might only take you 40 seconds. And the theory that I have for that is that in some sense, especially the Western scientific mind, when we study the mind, we study the brain. We don't like, one of the things that really woke me up was this idea that the brain's an antenna. That's not the generator. It's the receptor of our world and our connection to it. And depending on how traumatized you are with a variety of different things as we're growing up and going through these institutions with churches and schools and things like that kind of cuts you off of your source in a way. And if you're really brave, then you might do therapy, you might I don't know, learn meditation, you might somehow exercise your demons out of your own system, and you get connected, you reconnect. And every step of the way, it demands some sort of an internal courage, leap of faith again, in order to get to somewhere. And we just don't really have any tangible way of measuring of how much of that an individual has done, or what kind of damage they've ousted from their system in order to be so connected that they could bring about something in 40 seconds that other people couldn't, no matter what they did. And there's something that is of value there. And I wanted to bring it up because I hear it in your music that you're connected. I resonate with it, and I share some of that journey. And I suppose if there are other artists in this space who are coming up, and they're figuring out their voice no matter what they're putting together in the crypto voxel space or crypto art or music, whatever it is. I'm not saying go and do mushrooms straight out the bat or whatever. This is not a, they say this is not financial advice, this is not drug advice, in that sort of a way. But I think that concept, that whole idea of how you've ended up as artists in the space of where you are, mentally, spiritually, and psychically, that it has something to do with that, is to get connected, and the connection takes care of you knowing who you are and putting something authentic out there. And
I feel that, man. No, I definitely feel that, man. I think it does have a lot to do with it. Like, even down to things like you're saying, it doesn't have to be psychedelics. Like, it could be like when I moved to Vancouver, gemstones, man. I was all about gemstones and gemstone healing. Learned about yoga, there's Tai Chi, there's just breath work, just the breath. Like, we got the best drug known to man. We have our breath. That's the best drug you could get. You can have an unlimited amount of it. You can't overdose on it, and you could pass out. You'll be all right. You know what I mean? But you could always do some breath work. But I just wanted to show you guys this. I don't know if you see it, if it'll be on video. So I was also microdosing shrooms for a minute. And this has 0.14 grams of shrooms, some lion's mane, and ginger powder and turmeric. And it was like, it's just in there, like separated. So like, even people who want to microdose or try microdosing, there are people out there right now. And I don't know about back where you are, but in Canada, they are slowly making this legal. They're making therapy using psychedelics legal. And there's already one place in BC where you can get magic mushrooms as a medicine. So it's pretty cool where we're going, Like, we're going to evolve when we want new cell phones, but we're going to devolve when it comes to everything else. It makes no sense, right? So it's nice to evolve with everything equally. So it's nice that they're doing this with the shrooms and stuff. But I agree, man. I talk a lot. This is the problem, see?
No,
it's not a problem.
It's a good thing, especially for a podcast. Guys, I'm already sort of invested in your success in such a way that I really want you to do well. I want the conferences that have been good to me, I want them to discover you guys, whether it's that you go and perform or you DJ or you become a part of the important sound culture that is emerging in those spaces. I think you're very much needed in them. So like after this, I'm going to try and put together a couple of introductions, and let's see if like one of my places that I really love and I keep talking about them is World CryptoCon in Las Vegas. And, those guys are some of the best people in this whole space. And I think you would vibe off in order to get somewhere. And a little bit to the previous topic, Colin and my friend Michael, they're both in Toronto, and they started a podcast called Talking Mush, which is about not only mushrooms in the psychedelic sense, but all of their variety of healing qualities. But a lot of people come on their podcast to talk about their psychedelic experiences and let their community know what's up. And Michael is one of my first collectors in the blockchain space. I think he bought the second piece I ever made as a one-of-one that is in his podcast studio. So I think you guys are gonna hit it off. If you want to go and talk with those folks, I think you're amazing. Have a good time. So those are just the kind of given, because I think one of the really nice things about this space is that it's so emerging and it's so new that when people come with quality and they come with a good spirit into these things, the door, as they should, they open quickly, and they should open because there's a need for what you guys are doing. I truly believe that you should be far more visible in the physical spaces as well.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Honestly, man, just coming into the space, I got into the space again. Like, I'm going to say, this is something I'll say forever, man. But I got into the space through Vandal, just like literally sprinkling this information on me every once in a while without thumping it on my head. Just like, yo, Miz, check this out. Yo, check this out. And that's the best way to do it. Because he thumps something on my head, I run like religion, So this guy, so I'm just like, yo, that's good. And then I end up, all this happens in the world this year, and I'm like, worried, because I know that the banks are the biggest slave masters the world has seen. And I'm worried, what did these slave masters want to do right now? And like, so I got involved. I just jumped right into this stuff, into this world.
And since then, exactly, it's like, I also can see, like, not trying to be conceited, but I'm just saying knowledge of self, I should say. My knowledge of self shows me that I feel like one of the purposes I could already feel that I can add on, like one of the powers I could bring to this would be exactly that, to somehow paint what this space is about to the people. This is what I'm calling it now. I don't know if it's already called that, but like the fiat world, you know what I mean? To paint it to the artists and the people and the souls trapped and struggling in the fiat world. This is hopefully this music can get to them, and it can be given to them in a language they understand without it being too preachy, and they can slowly come through the door. So basically with the music, I feel one of my roles is to do what Vandal was doing to me. Instead of thumping people on the head, I'm sprinkling these things over people in the fiat world, like a fairy, like the rap fairy.
There's one thing.
It's such a
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's such a challenge with the mindset that people have with the traditional industry, especially like the music industry. That's been the most challenging thing for me, especially. You know, because like even this idea of decentralization and like talking about what it means, and people constantly feeling the need to have ownership over their ideas and having ego within a space amongst other people, or like, you know, this is my project, or like to me decentralization, like if we want to get there, that's like a true democracy in many ways, where like you're literally like giving up ownership to have a shared ownership where you don't control the direction. You can give your input, and you can suggest things, and if people agree, they agree. But if other people come and other people agree with other people and not you, you can't like have an ego trip about it. Like you really have to just kind of say, okay, this is for the greater good of the thing, of the entity. It's not mine. It's ours. And I think that we've grown up in this world and in this industry that pushes you to like be like, like, whose world is this? The world is yours. No, man, the world's ours. You know, in a way. You know, so it's we've been pushed to into this hyper independence in a way, and in a way, it's for a reason. It's because, you know, they want to like make everyone independent. So you go and you pay your own bills, and you go pay your own taxes. Then you have your own internet. You have your own phone line, and you're not sharing with other people. You're not sharing within the community. You're not like, how many, like if you live in an apartment building, everybody has internet. Each unit has internet. Like, okay, well, you know, you could have a couple of internets on the floor and everyone could share it. Like you could do that.
True.
But do people do that? No. They got to have their own internet. They got to have, you know, and it's kind of like we pay for it. And we've been conditioned this way. So the same with the music industry, you know, like this artist, so like, I'm out to get mine. I'm, you know, like I gotta, you know, it's all about the Benjamins, you know, different things where it's this sort of selfishness, but this materialistic selfishness. And that's the main challenge in terms of bringing people into the space, is that if people are stuck in that mindset, like there's no point in even trying to get them to come in, you know. I think this is for the crazy people. I hate to quote the commercial, the Apple commercial.
It's really good, man.
For the misfits, and like that's where it is, you know. That's where the space is. It's Apple in like 2098 or 97, Apple in 98, you know. That's where it is.
Yo, what about this? I just had an idea when you were talking, like a transition, like, because when you're talking, it's like there's the extremes of that, and then there's just the average every day of that unlearning process, you know? it's like a transition program of some sort would be cool for people who want to enter into this space. Like not just the onboarding crash course, just like transitioning. So while you're in the space, transitioning of the etiquette and the unlearning of the fiat way of competition. You know what I mean? Because even me coming into the space with you, how many times did me and Vandal have to sit down and talk so many times? Like, how many times, brother, you have to explain to me, show me, like, yo, Miz, but this, like, trust me, like, it's a reminder. It's like, yo, but it's a community deal. There's going to be votes. But it's like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, let's do this. But yo, but guerrilla music and I'm going to an I, but that's how it is. And just the whole concept that you're running, it's like, yo, I understand but this space, you have to get away from the which is, it's very hard to unlearn these things. It's really difficult to unlearn these things, and to unlearn anything, it takes repetition and practice. So I think a transition course would be great, man. A transition course, not mandatory, obviously, nothing's mandatory, but something that people are in the space, and then people like me who are like, yo, I feel what I'm doing is, I'm like, hold on, I want to do that, but I can't understand it, and I want to do the course.
Well,
if there was one,
this is that workshop, the workshop idea that we were talking about this morning.
True,
my morning,
true.
Your last night,
evening, yeah.
And how we can basically try and onboard people and slowly acclimatize them to it, because I think that's the mission now is about onboarding. And how do we onboard? Because, and you know, we can see the benefits in the space for people, and it, as an alternative, if not as like a full-time thing, right? But there needs to be sort of this you know, this sort of guidance, or this program or workshops or things to just like introduce these concepts and ideas to people, and then have a way for them to exercise, you know, and like have something to participate in, and so that it's kind of a bit more tangible for them. And I think that's kind of the direction that we took with DAO Records at the beginning, is to try and get people who already have music to come in and be a part of this, and then just kind of like, if they're interested, they're interested. If they're not, they're not. But those who are interested will kind of stick around, and that's sort of, it's no pressure onboarding. It's like, hey, here's an opportunity. Do you want an opportunity? Like, it's funny because like some people just don't seem to want an opportunity.
They're just scared of it. It's not that, man. No, they want the opportunity, bro. They're just scared of like something they don't understand. Exactly. They want the opportunity without too much work. They want the opportunity that comes as dinner on a plate. They don't want to go hunting. And at the same time, it's like a lot of people just don't understand. So they run away from it. It's just like too much. It's like, yo, want to come check this thing out? Like Crypto Voxels, we're doing a thing. It's like, you know how many people like, yo, I'm doing the Choose Your Own Ending album. It's like, yo, just click this URL and log in. It's like, jump in. It's like, I'm like, yo, did you check the thing yet? It's like, nah, man, I didn't have time for that yet. I'm like, yo, bro, did you? I'm like, cool, all right. I'm like, yo, but you know, it's just as easy as like going on Spotify. You like the URL I gave you, you just literally click it and you'll be in there, you know? But it's like, but I don't understand it. Like I've had people like not want to talk to me anymore when I'm like, yo, bro, this is a good space. I think your art can do dope in it and blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, leave me alone. Oh, gigabytes. It's like, yo, there's smoke coming out of his ears. I'm like, yo, man, I'm like, literally, like, because you know what it is too? It's the fiat world thinking again. It's like, hold on, you have an opportunity for me. Something's fishy about
what's in it for you.
What do you mean? Yeah. What do you mean? You want to help me? What do you mean? It's like, you know, because fiat killed community, you know what I mean? But we can build community. So, but yeah, the workshop ideas would be fun, man. That's going to be a fun thing to do with all of us, man.
I would love to hear, like, I haven't, if you've made it already, then I'm just not aware of it, but I would like to hear in song form a couple of art pieces that I've made visually, which is something, because one of the great things for me as an education when I came into the space was that I started immediately listening to Andres Antonopoulos, and he has such a unique version of it, and it was inviting to me that eventually led me to listen to many of the counter counters to that as well, to balance some things are maybe there. But one of the great things of what he said was that, you know, we have whatever 7 point something billion people here, and we only have, there's like 3 billion of them don't even have bank accounts. We essentially have 42% or 43% of the world's population is not in the economic game to the point that they don't have a bank account. And right now we have an opportunity to expand the world, an opportunity, and getting out of poverty and this whole thing in such a way that it's unprecedented. And I thought, because basically my fiance, she went on a meditation course, and that expanded into something that the both of our connection to India somehow kept getting bigger and bigger. And you know, India's government immediately, they went about banning Bitcoin, and then opening and banning and doing the whole thing. And Andreas's whole point was that in places where you don't have a stable currency is where cryptocurrency is most needed, and it's a hard sell in a certain sense in those places that are now crumbling around us that used to do well. So I made a couple of art pieces about that, and I thought, in particular about India, the mythology of an experience of Ganesh, the elephant god, as well as Lakshmi, the goddess of health and wealth. And it's actually here, if you don't mind me showing, on this wall. It's like a 2-meter piece about Lakshmi.
Beautiful.
And it has a lot of the mythology and a lot of the whole thing of our personal family relationship to the thing. But she's also, as well as gold, which she traditionally rains from her right hand, she's raining down also Bitcoin. But it's very subtle, sort of on the
Nice.
inside of that.
Yeah.
Because I thought, what would be the best way to introduce to the continent of India, and especially the cultural foundation of Hinduism, that, you know, what would be the quickest way to get it there somehow, that they would accept it as a viable opportunity or an idea to at least be worthy of exploring. Well, you take something that is thousands and thousands of years old, and it's sort of been now accepted into the divine portfolio, so to speak. So if that gets introduced in the right kind of way, in the right kind of place, and with our new technology, it can all reach millions and millions of people, all of a sudden there's a spark that happens. And I would just love to hear your kind of take or your way of presenting that part of what's happening here.
I got a spark. I got a spark, and I think I'm about to read. I'm about to read Miz's mind, because he's been into India, and he's connected with Indian MCs and hip hop in India, and I just feel like maybe this is where that goes. You know, as opposed to maybe us doing it, that it can go to India.
So check it. Speaking of that, so I have footage from a documentary that is not even completed yet. I have the footage. It's of all these hip hop artists. Like recently in India, Nas just started Mass Appeal India. And Nas, and he signed his first artist, which is Divine, from a group called Gully Gang in India, who they have a movie about now in Bollywood called Gully Boy. It's huge. Hip hop's all over the place. But when I went there a few years ago, during that journey, when we did that tour, we met all of these artists. They were right there. Now all these artists are in Bollywood movies. But it was like, through that, we met a lot of young artists when you're doing workshops in the communities. And we're still in touch with those young artists. And exactly what Vandal's saying is like, it'll be great to get their voice in, because they'd be able to, like with the visual art, it's like your visual art can transcend there easily, you know, but then you add one of their voices in a language, in Hindi or something, you know what I mean? It'll be even more powerful than me and Vandal could even make it work. And I can definitely introduce you to somebody. This brother named Masculine, that's his rap name. And then it's India, you know, but his name's Masculine. Dope brother, man. And like, think about India, rappers are doctors. So he's like a doctor who raps, and strange, you know? And he got signed to Mass Appeal India as well. And he's actually going to be one of the people rolling through and supporting us, if I may just put that out there, and supporting us in the future with DAO Records. You know, that's one of the people I got to send you. I like, but this dude is like, I feel like, yo, we can almost. I'm down to use the documentary footage I have, add on with that with visual art, then add on and find a soundtrack for the documentary and the visual art, and have it as a full project. We could release it with a big presentation and just do it through the blockchain. I'm just sitting on it and I wanted to release it properly, you know? So if it's something that'll work and we can get all the young people from India onto the blockchain, like it's over, man. You know? So that's like a good idea, man. I'd definitely be more than happy to add that on, you know?
Well, because like what I did, I'm not sure if you know this, but probably still what I'm most known for, the biggest project that I did was with this Bollywood actress called Veena Malik. And the whole thing was pretty crazy because she was, at the time, she had to escape with her life from Pakistan. They tried to kill her with 2 oil trucks because she threw a giant monkey wrench into the double standards of Pakistan in a certain kind of sense. And she came to, I met her. First of all, I came out of the hospital just before contacting her. I'd had a severe pneumonia and my back got fucked, and it was one of the worst years of my life. And I just saw one of her interviews that was set up as a sort of trap for her with this pretty sleazy TV guy and this mufti. And they sort of tried to make her look like a really, really bad person. And she turned it all around. And people, but this lioness that came out of this woman was just like, I was like, I gotta body paint her and do something with her. So I sent her an email. 24 hours later, they came back to me. I went and met her in London, and the whole process took 2 years for me to discover the unifying cultural, spiritual foundations of all the major traditions, the patriarchal as well as the matriarchal. And we made this project with these 6 art pieces. And it was quite intense because there was a lot of friends and family, because I knew I was playing with fire in a certain kind of sense. But obviously someone who's already really controversial in India and Pakistan, and then, you know, nude body painting is not something that because she's Muslim. So this, like, I need to figure this out so that it's actually the bridge building project that I want it to be, as opposed to like pouring rocket fuel into an already big flames. And I had friends and family who were already telling me that, you know, this might be the last thing that you do and goodbye type of thing. And so I was very careful in building it the right way.
Yeah.
And when we did release it, there were journalists, only a couple, who actually understood what happened, which is that we essentially changed the cultural foundation of India and Pakistan from thousands of years of culture, all of a sudden transformed overnight, of what was possible and what was not possible. And because of this, the media already thinking that this might be a train wreck and this might be something like super, super intense, and maybe I fucked it up. So the media came and we reached at least like 300 million people or something like that. And it was an intense amount of people and we couldn't even measure it. But they only came to see if it was a car wreck. They didn't actually ever present the real thing of what we did, because powers that be didn't think that that was maybe a good idea or whatever it is. And that's all a rabbit hole in and of itself. But ever since then, I've been waiting to discover the next superstar, who could be a male, could be whatever. It doesn't, I just need someone who is in a cultural hotspot, who has something to really to contribute, to do a cool project like this, to do a body painting, new pieces, involve the blockchain, involve music, involve maybe a whole event of how it's released. And it could be, again, in India, if that's something that could naturally unfold, or it could be in Kuala Lumpur, or it could be in Vancouver. I don't really care. I just want someone with reach, a lot of substance, and put together something that the world's never seen before. I'd love to do that again. That would be so dope. So if that sparks any ideas or whatever, I suppose to many people watching, this is almost turned like into a private call right now. So,
but it's okay. They can catch the buzz, and if maybe they have ideas, and they can send you some messages. But I'm definitely down to brainstorm on this and add on, man. Like 100%. Like before all this, like before the world shifted how it did at this moment, it was like one of my main I'm from India, you know? So one of my main things as of recent was that I wanted to reconnect with my roots. And not only that, I wanted to help out as much as I can. Like I wanted to help out, meaning I can't go there and be a hero because even though I'm Indian, I'm not from there and I can't really go and take over what the community wants, you know what I mean? But I can go clear a little path and maybe help someone get a voice so they can explain what the community wants, you know? So this is a great opportunity to do that. And I'd love to, man. Like all the contacts I made in my life, like to be honest, like in India, it was sad because a lot of the people I met, hip hop makes people feel like they're supposed to be egotistical. So a lot of people is really hard to work with. It's like, I'm a rapper now. Yo, yo, yo. And it's like, they're all different. And it's like, okay, I can't build with you. You're not human anymore. But then there's those people out there that are embedded in the community who are the same type of people who the world needs to hear them. Like you were talking about, the world needs to hear these people, but they're not because they're not egotistical enough. They're not abusive enough for promoters to mess with them. You know, you know what I mean? So these are the type of people that need to be heard. And I'm definitely down to add them on. I'm actually excited right now to add on to this because it'll be a really powerful thing to do as an art piece, for a community and for the blockchain, man. This is India we're talking about, you know? You got India involved, you got a lot of people involved in the blockchain. There's a lot of power involved in it, you know?
That's the whole thing. It's like, I want a blockchain company. I mean, I see, and especially the next coming bull run that is about to happen. I mean, I've heard all the stories. I just came in during the first 6 months of the previous bull run. And obviously being so fresh to it, I didn't know how to take advantage of a lot of the opportunities that were coming about. And I was just really like, wow, this is amazing. But it was such a whirlwind. And I basically, when I really started realizing anything, that's when the crash happened. So
Yeah.
so it was quite something. But I saw how much money was being thrown around and what was happening. And you know, the thing is, what you were saying earlier is that, you know, couldn't care less about having 74 Lamborghinis. They can go fuck themselves. They're shitty cars anyway. But I would like to have not only enough money for myself that I don't have to worry about it, so I can get out the way and I can get on with my life and starting family and living where I want and doing all of this stuff. But the main point is getting a lot of resources to be able to whirl them into the correct place so things can happen that are positive for this world. And that's the type of thing, is that I know that there's going to be, even if the motivation of the blockchain company is just to reach people, even if it's to sell their product or whatever it is, they can still do it with the good intent and reach all of those people and help the world at the same time. And the new model is they can still make a fuck ton of money doing it, but it just expands exponentially in a different way as it has before. So that's the opportunity here. And for example, with me and Vina, we've self-funded it. It was 20,000 euros that we did that whole thing with. I dare you, Coca-Cola or Pepsi or whoever, just even in terms of numbers, how many people we reached and what the reactions were, to even scratch the surface. I mean, but I wouldn't do it for that anymore, because I took a severe beating for 3 years in order to be able to do it with that and sort of eat macaroni, cheese, sometimes not with cheese. So, but even still, the numbers are like the economics and the intent and the whole slice of the pie are coming together. It's no longer just hippie people in a drum circle wishing the world was better. It's people with an actual vision, resources and know-how and business skills, and all of that is coming together in the blockchain space so that these things can happen in reality as opposed to pipe dreams. And that's so exciting. That's
I agree, man. I'm excited. That's all I know. I'm excited out here, man. Yo, you got me hyper. It's 10:30 in the morning. Like, I'm so hyper now. I was tired at first, but now I'd be thinking about documentaries all day, making songs about Ganesha. Yo, by the way, Ganesha has me and Ganesha, there's a connection with Ganesha. And every time I'm on my travels, whether I'm leaving or returning, I will see an elephant. Like, usually not lucky enough to see a real elephant, but I'll see an elephant. and I will see eagles. And eagles and Ganesha have been leading the way, showing me I'm doing the right thing for a long time. So I really like that painting.
So
Even though that was Lakshmi, but
it's your mythology, because as far the eagle is the North American symbol, right? And the Indian Ganesh is that there's some sort of a mythology building bridges. I mean, in Christian sense, I mean, archangels. I mean, it's something that is I mean, it's just a term that is brought about, but it's essentially the concept is angels that build arches over large concepts or reaches, like cultural blends or things like that. So I suppose there's, I mean, you're in both places at the same time in a certain kind of sense. So that's
yeah, exactly. Living that life.
So what do you guys, is there something, if we close this session pretty soon or something, for now, I'm sure we're going to have many more of them, but do you have some things that you still want to let people know of, or?
Well, I could just say, music wise, I've been working with Skills again. I have another idea of us. I've built a few songs with Skills. We're going to be releasing. Skills and Vandal have been working for a long time. And I also have, we're going to have some tracks. Like, I have an idea of a track that I'm going to send to these guys and add on, which I'm excited about. But yeah, just that, man. I'd say for now, though, the main thing is, if anyone in this space wants to support us, I say one of the main things I would say is look out for the Origin City album. Support it how you can, because once you support that, it'll lead you to everything else. It'll lead you to the, I know Vandal will talk about it more, but Pop-Up Season 2 is coming. There's going to be an after party from the Pop-Up Season 2s once a month inside Guerrilla Music Space. But at the end of the day, it's all DAO records, man. So I guess Vandal will break it down better. You know, I'm here and I'm happy to support. So I'm just supporting as much as I can. And I'm following. I know there are no leaders, but sometimes people take the lead, and Vandal's taking the lead, you know? So go tell them, brother.
Yeah. The Origin City EP, the Gitcoin grant. Actually, the Gitcoin matching round is going to be up on the 3rd of July. So it's, I guess, a few more days from now. And so if people out there want to support the project and support what we're up to, they can drop drop an ETH on them, as what Skills quoted. Drop an ETH on them, you know. Or like throw a die down, you know.
Yeah.
Toss a coin
Exactly.
over to the grant, you know. And just support that way, and look out for the new music. And there's a lot coming. Like, even I got a song, Skills, that I had worked with Skills and this other MC from the States, Pup, who changed his name to King Raw now. And we had this track, and it was like this track that I was like wanting them to finish. Like, come on, when are we going to finish the song? Is it done? Like, to me, it was done. And it was like, okay, well, what's going on with it? And I think it was like it's been a year. It's coming out on the 4th of July.
Okay.
So there's that, and then a couple of unreleased tracks for me is going to come out in August, and then we've got Pop-Up Season 2, which is going to kick off at the beginning of August. But did I say that already? That's a secret too. No, we're gonna announce all this on the weekend. So,
you got to tell me what to announce and what not to announce, man. I'm letting all the cats out the bag.
It doesn't matter. It's all good.
Man,
it's cool.
Whatever. Anyone who listens to this, you get that exclusive sneak peek. So make sure you tune in to VESA's show.
Cool. I'll add
what's
your
the podcast
Twitter
called?
handles, and it's called We Love Decentralized.
We do.
All right. Yeah, definitely do.
Yeah, man. We love Decentralized. But yo, seriously though, anyone in this space, man, you want to build with us? Like, yo, we will help you with your audio services. Give us a call anytime. But we're here to work, man. Seriously, man. We want to add on to the space. You need some audio, get at us, man. I'm doing my best to not go back to that fiat world, even though I didn't mind my job too much. But I'm trying to do my best to just stay here. I want to give the banks as less as possible. I'm so disappointed in them. I hate them. I want to give them as less as possible. So let's barter some services. Let's do something, man. Send me rice. I'll send you a verse. Let's do this.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. And I know everyone's going to be hearing a lot more from what you're doing. So, yeah, peace out.
Yes, man. Thank you,
All
brother.
right, much love.
Peace, man.